old school friend. I've known Dan for best part of 25 years. So since we're around 14 years old. All things considered, I think I do my best man duties okay, pretty well. In terms of the stag dip, I managed to organise that. We got Dan dressed up nicely. Picking the outfit wasn't quite so easy though. We did have to get our thinking cap on. But actually, I suddenly realised that Dan has always wanted to be a little bit bigger in the downstairs department. So for his stag night, we dressed him up as Willy Man. Problem is, we wanted him to be a bit embarrassed, but he enjoyed it far too much. A huge smile on his face as he's swinging this 12-inch Willy around the streets of Nottingham. It just backfired. But Dan, I do hope you've got a tiny flavour of what it's like to be me for a day. I've known you for many years, and you've got a massive flavour. True. On a serious note, for all those that made it to the stag do, it was a fantastic do, and thankful that they described it. Right, I was hard not to make this speech last too long. In fact, I am told that this speech shouldn't last any longer than it's likely to take Dan to perform his husbandly duties on his family. So what have I got? 30 seconds more, Dan, and then we're done, or have I already overran? In preparation for today's speech, I did have a quick chat to Dan about what was fair game to talk about and what was not. And he mentioned two things: to make sure you stay away from ex-girlfriends and drugs. And I ignored this advice entirely, and I thought, you know what, I will make this the crux of my speech today. So shall we start with drugs? Not many people know this, but Dan was actually a very famous chap back in Boston. Back in our days, he was very well known. There was a number of things he was famous for. The first one is he could get you a stolen bike for 40 quid. This would be 21 gears, it'd be a mountain bike. Very good man to know. He had some famously bad haircuts. I mean, today he's doing pretty good, but he's had the curtains, he's had the bowl look, he's had the super long hair. Yeah, well, but above all of this, Dan's main claim to fame was his ability to roll the most amazing splits. We are talking joints like no other. The perfect Kona every time. The talk of the whole town. They were brilliant. The problem is that Dan didn't always have the money to feed his weed habit. So from time to time he would perfect his habit or his rolling abilities just using tobacco and nothing else. One particular night goes down in history. Dan was probably about 16 years old and he decided to test his skills by rolling the biggest joint he could. And that's exactly what he did. I believe it was about a 2-foot monster. There you go. Now, remember, Dan was just rolling this with tobacco and nothing in it. However, Tina's at the time boyfriend, I believe, caught sight of this enormous joint and he wasn't too happy about this. To the extent that he went and called the police. A very nice chap. So the copper comes round and has a knock on the door and says, Dan, where's this said joint? So Dan pulls out this enormous joint from underneath the sofa, and the words that this copper rolled off have now gone down in history. Something along the lines of, bloody hell, that's a whopper. And as a small token gesture as a wedding gift, I tried to practice. Now, it's pretty naff, but actually, it's actually very difficult to make a giant joint. So, for your mantelpiece, round the applause for Dan who's raising the joint.
Pass it round, Dan.
Okay, not long after this incident, again ran at Dan's house for another evening chill-out session. Tina and Ellen had gone out for the afternoon or the evening, and Dan suggested that we take the car out for a ride. I remember we were just 16 years old, none of us had a license between us. However, I agreed that this was a fantastic idea, so we jumped in the car. So Dan proceeded to bunny hop the car down the side street. We then struggled with a 3-point turn, bunny hopped the car back to the house. Unfortunately, there was a taxi in the way. We couldn't get the car back on the driveway. this annoying taxi. Someone waving at the taxi saying move out of the way, only to watch Tina get out of the taxi. But as you can imagine, Tina wasn't that impressed. In fact, pretty mad would be the description I would use. And I sat back and chuckled. I got out of the car, as did Dan, and I watched Dan get battered to death by a handbag as he ran in the house and Tina followed after. So I look back on these moments now, and I just think what a thoroughly bad influence we were having. Incredible. Alright, so that's drugs and joyriding done. I think we just need to move on to ex-girlfriends. Is that alright? Wonderful. As young lads, I have fond memories of going out in the pool with Dan. Be that in our hometown of Buxton, or more fondly in Bulwell, where the ladies were not quite so classy, but possibly a little less fussy. Now, this lack of fussiness was very important to me and Dan. We had a recurring problem when we went out in the pool, which was we just didn't bloody pull. Bulwell was helpful with that. In fact, other complications where we were often mistaken for a gay couple, which doesn't actually help with the primary aim of the night. However, the story I want to tell you today goes back to our early teenage years. At the age of 14, Dan was actually the same class as my twin sister. So my sister's called Naomi, and she's an amazing woman. However, at the age of 14, she was a little naive and very susceptible to Dan's cheesy chatter lines. So for a short period of time, Dan actually dated my sister. I don't think it lasted more than a couple of weeks, and in hindsight, there's a very good reason for this. Just 2 weeks of dating Dan was enough to put my sister off men entirely. And to this day, she's a very proud lesbian. Dan, who turned her gay.